Welcome to Know Your Fundamentals. I'm Kelly Berthold, licensed clinical social worker, wellness educator, and coach. Join me as I connect the foundational science of mental health, emotional intelligence, and human flourishing with real-life practical tools you can apply in your relationships, leadership, career, and personal growth. Each episode blends research-backed insights with lessons drawn from the unique experiences of our remarkable neighbors, uncovering patterns that build resilience, strengthen connection, and elevate well-being. You're the expert on your life, and I'm here to help you build the foundation so you can truly thrive your way. Let's get started. Hi, welcome today to the Know Your Fundamentals podcast. Today, we're thrilled to welcome ElizabethFegert, marketing strategist, small business consultant, and founder of GJ Design Company. As a fellow working mom and creative entrepreneur, Elizabeth brings a refreshing perspective on how building something of your own can be a powerful way to reconnect with yourself. In this episode, Elizabeth will explore with me a truth that so many women share, but rarely say out loud. Sometimes the hustle isn't just about making money. It's about feeling like yourself again. So welcome, Elizabeth. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Kelly. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would have to also say that one of the reasons why I'm even here in general is because you have helped me through like business saying, well, Kelly, what are you going to do this as a business? I'm like, I don't know, just sprinkle free stuff everywhere. It's like, that's not a strategy. It's like, okay. So I have you to thank for helping me over the past few years kind of hone in on my own strategy and making this own hustle of mine something that, this topic is very near and dear to my heart, as I know it is also to yours. So catch us up a little bit about what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Yeah, I have a super cool job and then I get to meet awesome entrepreneurs like yourself. So my 9 to 5 job is at a small business development center. So if there are any entrepreneurs or business owners listening on the call, or maybe anyone who has ever thought of starting a small business themselves, there are these amazing resources across the country that before I ever thought about starting a business, and I was never anyone who ever thought of starting my own business before I did, there are these resources that are available across the country called small business development centers that offer free one-on-one confidential consulting. And I was a teacher for 8 years. I was an English educator, a high school teacher. I love doing it. But after doing it for 8 years and kind of realizing I'm not the type of person that can do the same thing forever. I love to be learning. I love to be growing and challenging myself in different ways. I realized I need to do something else. And I came to Penn State, which is my alma mater. My best friend told me, like, Elizabeth, you've been talking about working at Penn State since we went to Penn State. Like, you're taking the job, go do it. And I worked in career services where I was an event planner. I ran large scale events. Found this group of students who was really interested in working in the small business environment, not in the corporate world. And I started this small business career fair, which landed me in front of this world of entrepreneurs that I had never, ever met before. Never come across people who really ran small businesses, which is silly because my family ran a small business, like my grandfather. But I found this group of really dedicated people who were super passionate and risk takers and people who were willing to like challenge themselves to grow and do really, really hard things. And I wound up in this world and now I get to meet cool people and help them accomplish their goals. So I love what I do. And that really inspired me to start something of my own. And I have found it to be the most rewarding thing to do something that I'm really good at in a way that gives back to others and helps them accomplish their goals. And so it's been a really fun process and something I never expected to do.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about like what you do in the day to day when it comes to all of it. I mean, you do a lot. So I think sometimes when we have the opportunities to be able to like dive deeper into things that like really are fulfilling to us. So when you're thinking about your Penn State work and also your GJ Designs work, what are the things that you're doing that you find that are just like day to day connecting to like your interests and finding more of the path of those passions that you're kind of like taking forward step by step?
Yeah. I am notorious for taking on a lot of things because they're interesting to me. So in a normal day to day, right? Like I wake up, I get my kid ready, take him to school. He's in daycare. He's little. He's almost 3. And then I go to my 9 to 5 job where I meet with clients for a lot of the day. I'm also the chair of a staff advisory council at the university. So it's a leadership role that requires me to be in a lot of meetings. I do advocacy work on behalf of staff. That's something that's really rewarding to me. And it's something that I sought out because I'm really passionate about using my very loud and obnoxious voice and organizational skills to help other people. So I seek that out because that's something that I don't necessarily get to do in my 9 to 5 job, which is very much a solo contributor role, right? I work one-on-one by myself. I don't supervise other people. I don't lead other people. I'm helping people one-on-one, which I love. That's great. But this role allows me to work with a group of people and help kind of guide a large group of people toward a much larger purpose. In terms of my role as at the SBDC, right, I get to help other people in a small capacity, right, which is really cool. I get to help them in small chunks. Like I worked with you for a small amount of time and then I sent you off on your way and you're thriving and you're doing your thing, but you might not need me, right, for a long time. I hope you'll come back at some point. But like,
And I always come back. I'm like, oh, hey, I'm at this new stage now. Can
yeah,
we check in? Yeah.
this is awesome. And I love that. And I meet so many cool people who are at different stages. But like there's not always this like end thing. And it's a different level of like check-in and it's a quick sort of help. With my side business, it's really cool for me. It always has been cool for me to kind of see a thing come to fruition, right? To start from something from scratch and to see the end product. And with teaching, I never got that. Like you educate a student for a year and you don't always see the end product. Sometimes you do when you live in a town and you get to see where they end up someday, but you don't see like what they become or how they use the thing that you taught them. You don't see the end. There's no end product. So with my side business, it's cool to be able to see, here is this thing that I can do. And here's how I can turn that knowledge and that skill into an actual product, an end result, and see it come to life and see it be really helpful and come to sort of execute. So it's kind of cool to how those different roles that I've sought out allow me to kind of flex those muscles in different ways outside of, like, one of those things is a volunteer commitment. One of those things is a side gig. And one of those things is my 9 to 5 job. So I found ways to kind of do those things that I enjoy and am passionate about in other areas outside of my regular.
Right. So like in any one of those things, it's fulfilling, but like listening to your body and saying, this feels good. And I'm missing these other elements of maybe relationships or life or contributions or collaborations that it's this and this. So I recognize I do have these needs for other types of relationships and other types of involvement and other types of giving back and seeing things unfold that are also like utilizing my own like skills and my own gifts. I think for some of us in our life journey, we have a hard time, especially if we are a little bit more insecure in our own capabilities or insecure of like how our own gifts and capabilities may benefit other people. Where is it that you became aware that you not only enjoyed collaborating and creating and, you know, just seeing how things kind of unfold, and you also felt comfortable in exposing yourself in that way to do it?
Yeah. The imposter syndrome is very real. So the marketing thing, like I was a teacher and so my degree is in English education, secondary English education. So my degree is, my undergraduate degree was in communications basically. So I'm a good writer. I'm a good communicator. I taught argumentation and rhetoric. So convincing people, persuasion.
And assuming that you like it.
Yes.
You're doing it because you like it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I like to read. Clearly, I like to talk. I'm talking to you right now. I talk a lot. It's always been very interesting to me. And as I got into my first role at the university, which was in career services, which was running these large scale events, right? That skill, speaking and communicating, lends itself really well to teaching because you can communicate a concept to other people in a way that helps them to understand something that was otherwise complex. Well, that skill is desirable in a lot of other ways. And I kind of wasn't able to realize, like, I was like, well, who's going to want this skill outside of teaching? Like, what am I qualified for? And I came to realize, like, people are telling me, like, you can use that skill in other ways. Like people are going to want that skill. Other employers are going to want that skill. And through my work in career services and learning about the skills that employers want, I kind of learned like just because I have this degree in this one thing doesn't mean that's all I'm qualified to do. Like that's a transferable skill that lends itself to a lot of other realms. So that was kind of the first time that I started to get this inkling that like there's not a finite path that you have to follow because you've had a degree in one thing. And I started to learn the marketing. There was a girl that I worked with. Her name's Jenna. She works in marketing at Penn State, and I really loved what she did. And I started to learn the marketing under her. And so when this role opened up, my first job at the SBDC was in educational programming. So teaching and coordinating their educational training, but also doing their marketing, which I'd been learning under her and doing on the side at that point. Someone had hired me to do some writing for their business. So I was doing some independent contracting. And that gave me the opportunity to really learn it in a professional capacity. And the SBDC is great because they provide all sorts of free training to entrepreneurs. And so I got to really learn it for the first time. And then I was doing it for our center and I was consulting with our clients on how to do it for themselves. And it was only once my colleagues who were full-time business consultants saw me teaching our clients how to do it. And I heard they were saying to me, like, you're really good at this. Like, you should be doing this. Like people would pay you to do this. Like you should start your own business. It wasn't until someone else said it to me, like, you're good at this. This is a thing that you're talented in, that I could see it in myself. And I still, because I'm completely self-taught, because I don't have that degree. And I know that's so silly. Like I'm not the type of person who believes that like 3 letters behind your name mean anything. I don't believe a degree makes any person smarter. But because I don't have that traditional education in it, there are certainly moments where I like have that moment of like, am I good at this? And I'm so fortunate that like through this network and being an entrepreneur, I've met so many other people in this community who are in the world of marketing and social media and website design and all these other areas. And I can have that gut check. I can ask them like, am I on the right track? And they will reassure me like, yes, right. Or they will give me a pointer. And that's how we learn. We put ourselves out there. And you have to have a little bit of confidence and you can still be humble in that and want to learn and do better. But you have to take a little bit of risk to put yourself out there and learn the new thing. But that doesn't mean that even because I've gotten good at it, does not mean I don't have those moments of insecurity. But I will say that I think for me, one of the benefits of the side hustle is that it is one of the areas in my life where I do kind of get validation. It is a place where people are really grateful for the skill. And I do hear, thank you, you're really good at this, in a way that I don't always necessarily hear in my professional life. And so for me, it's one of the ways that entrepreneurship is really rewarding because I do kind of get that validation for something that is self-taught. So it's kind of extra rewarding because it is all me and I've taught myself.
Some of these things, it's like, oh, well, you learn with time or you learn with age. It's like we learn with age only if we throw a ball out there and it comes back at us. And it's just like, wait, I thought the ball only went that way, or I only thought I could throw it this way, or that it could only land that way. And then I suddenly see that I can do this other thing with it. I can roll it on my arm. I can like spin it on my fingers. Like there's other things. But I only could find that out through my own life experience. And if we just had a little bit more like open conversation, I think with like younger generations of don't pigeonhole yourself, or, hey, these things are truly transferable. How can you take this information or degree and apply it in these other ways? Instead of saying, hey, figure out at 18, you're going to go to college and this is what you're going to get a degree in, and you're going to do it for 45 years.
That's not how the future is at all going to work. You know what I mean?
No.
They're going to school right now for jobs that don't exist yet.
Yeah.
And so it's about opening up that mindset, and they're making that decision so young when their brains aren't even formed, right? So it absolutely, I think to any moms on the call who's, if your kids are getting of that age and you're thinking about like, oh shoot, they have to make a decision about what it is that they're going to do. I get that that's how it was when we were students. Like our parents had one job for their whole lives, but like our generation is starting to see that that's just not the case. People change jobs every couple of years, not just jobs, but sometimes career paths altogether. That's totally normal. It's about generating skills and developing the willingness to learn new things. That's, I think, the most important skill you can have.
Absolutely. And I think also evidence is demonstrating across like businesses of like what are the top skills that employers are looking for in the future. Flexible thinking, critical thinkers, individuals who are creative and can think outside the box, skill sets that are adaptable and that are transferable in a variety of different ways. So you were learning how to do that going from, oh, this is a very straightforward path of like teaching. And I mean, straightforward, like you go to college, you do your internships, you go and you teach, you do that on a day-to-day basis. They say, this is a curriculum. You need
retire
to,
25 years later. Like,
yeah, exactly. And so having to kind of break out of that, having the opportunity to say, I'm aware that this is not necessarily something that's going to be fulfilling for me for an extended period of time. Having to be in a position like that where you're not necessarily coming from an entrepreneurial background yourself and saying, oh, well, what's a new venture? I was very structured. And now I have other things that I want to experience and pursue. And I have to kind of take this leap of faith over this big chasm and to do those things. So what was it for you that being able to have like that confidence, even in the insecurity and the fear of saying, there's other things I want to do, that even like brought you into the realm of business? Like that was a crash course of like, oh, these other things exist. What are those movies where they like end up on an island in like a kids movie and they're like, they have all these different creatures and it's like, oh, what else is here? People experience that on a day-to-day basis, especially when they're doing career shifts or changes. So what was it for you within yourself that helped you get over some of that imposter syndrome of starting a new career and looking into all these new stepping stones? It sounds like when you were able to do the initial one and you recognized you could adapt, it helped you kind of go, oh, I can do all these other things too. And I get feedback that's rewarding, that people want me to do more of these things. And now I'm just like, I get to dabble. I just feel more confident in dabbling. But
Yeah.
first we have to start in the insecurity of the transition from structure to the unknown. How did you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I will say that like I have some luxuries that not everyone does, right? I have a really supportive partner who supports me and gives me that time and that emotional support to do those things, right? He's been very encouraging. He's been encouraging from the beginning, but I will say, right, there, that doesn't mean that there haven't been moments of like friction of like, this is a thing that takes up time and takes time out of our lives. So being willing to have the conversation of like why this thing is important and why we make time for it and why we support one another in those passions. So I have someone who has my back and who's willing to support me on this. The other luxury I have is I have a full-time job. So I have the ability to do this on the side. So I haven't lost my job. In the pandemic, so many people were starting businesses out of necessity because they had to make money because that was the only option that they had. That was one path to entrepreneurship, out of necessity. I have that luxury and I have the safety net of a full-time job, and I can do this as a side gig for now. May I explore this path full-time someday? Yes, perhaps. I've certainly talked about that option. That is something I may do. That is very still risky to me. That's still something my husband and I have talked about, that option. That still seems risky to me, for me to make that hurdle, right? If we want to talk about that, like theoretical jump. I'm really like, I feel like such an adult right now. I'm talking about like a very adult thing. I'm like vested in the public school teaching retirement system. So that's like a really hard like safety net to give up. So that's a very real thing, to give up a pension to explore something that's like personally fulfilling for me. That's a trade-off that like adults have to make, to just do something that you really love and or care about, for like things like health insurance. That's a very real decision that not everyone has the luxury to make. If you have a spouse who can't carry health insurance, like, does everyone have the luxury of giving up their job to start their own? No, like that. The fact of the matter is, that's not a decision that everyone can make. So a side hustle in doing this in a part-time capacity can be a really great option if they have a supportive partner who allows them the time to do this in a part-time capacity, right? For me, that oftentimes means after my kid's asleep or nap time on the weekends, right? Because I'm not a morning person. So for me, it's never early in the morning. It's just not
So many parallels happening right now. I'm like, oh wow, Elizabeth, like we have completely different careers, but like everything you're saying is like a check,
Yeah.
check, check. Some conflicts sometimes. Oh yes, absolutely. It's like
Yeah.
it just having to make these decisions and the complexity of those decisions of, okay, where is it that this makes sense financially and to what point? And where is it that I still need to balance this other thing, especially in today's economy? So sometimes it's those stepping stones of saying, this all feels comfortable and safe, but not as fulfilling. And so being able to just take that step of, if this isn't everything, it doesn't have to be all or nothing,
Yes.
but the exposure still has to happen. And the imposter syndrome and those failure points and those insecurities. And I was just having a conversation with Stephanie Bowles earlier this week but I see it all the time because it's just always so relevant. The biggest part of the hill to climb is just starting out and like getting your endurance. And you eventually do find it to be a little bit more sustainable after you've gone into, the locomotion of all of it. The wheels are greased. It could take a while to get there. Right? It could take a fairly long time sometimes. Sometimes not. It depends on the interest in the hobby or whatever the entrepreneurial work maybe that you're doing. But nevertheless, the hill is highest at the beginning. So
Absolutely.
how was it for you, even mindset? So you had the financial security, you had the relationship security, you were able to problem solve about real and not the imagined necessarily, but the real situations, and trying to organize your life to allow this to be something that's still moving forward. But even just kind of checking in with like that deeper, getting to the ground level, like underneath the grass here, the mindset stuff of this is worth it. Sometimes those are the biggest hurdles, that it's just being able to be aware of ourselves and how fear or insecurity play such a big role, and even just kind of like bringing up the idea to your partner and getting it out of your head and seeing where it even goes from there. What was it for you to be able to just be aware of that interest to do something else before you were doing all the learning, and just have a conversation about it and start taking those steps?
Yeah. It's funny, I think it's so much time. It's like this seed, right, that's germinating for a while, right? And it's a little taste of it, right? And it's doing it for someone maybe on the side in an unpaid capacity, and then it's getting your first client, and then it's okay, thinking about it, and then it's right, maybe talking to someone like a business consultant and figuring out the feasibility of it, right? Could I make money off of it? And then it's having the conversation with your partner, and it's the internal, like, do I believe in myself? And I remember for me, the hardest thing was like clicking like launch on that website and posting that first social media post, right? Like the go live, right? And putting myself out there was like the biggest hurdle for me. And I see that with so many of my clients, like that, just the pressure that they put on themselves for it to be perfect before it's public facing. That's,
Yeah.
I think, the biggest hurdle that so many of us have, because we feel that judgment of like, people are going to be judging me, right? And people are going to expect this certain thing. And I think that we feel that pressure all the time, that we put that pressure on ourselves, even when like other people probably don't care or aren't looking at it through that same critical lens. We're our worst critics. And so we are thinking of ourselves so critically, that the pressure that we put on ourselves to be perfect and put forward that best thing was the hardest thing for me. And it was the imposter syndrome, and it was, what do I offer, right? Like I'm a digital marketing business, right? I'm not a graphic designer, I'm not a website designer, so what do I offer? And how do I use my skills? What am I good at? And what am I able to offer realistically within my capacity and within my like capacity in terms of time? Like I can do this on the
Mhm.
side realistically, and skill set and all of those things. But yeah, it was certainly just time and sitting with that and building up the confidence, and then ultimately just kind of ripping off the band-aid eventually after doing it. I think that's what it comes down to, and someone just telling you like, do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The worst thing that happens is that like you don't, especially if it's a side business, you don't get customers. It doesn't go well. You can always pause, stop, pull back, reflect, try again later. Like that's truly the worst thing that happens. Obviously, if you quit your job and go full time and launch a whole bunch of money into something, that's a very different story. I was in a situation where I'm a service-based business that did not require a whole bunch of money to start up. So again, very different scenario. I acknowledge that. But for someone who is interested in starting to explore, like, how can I use this talent that I have in a way to monetize it a little bit on the side and exercise this thing that I'm really passionate about doing? Starting small and seeing how it goes is a lower risk way to do that, and kind of test the waters. But at the end of the day, you do just have to at some point do the thing.
Yeah, I think some of the challenges that we experience, especially as women, and especially I think just in the past number of years, at least from my experiences, when you're working a full-time job, you're juggling kids, you're trying to like even just have time alone for your relationship if you're married. So like not even adding in a side hobby or a side hustle. The day to day, if you even had 30 minutes a few times a week to just go out for a walk, it felt like a blessing. And so here it's just this awareness of when there's something important to you and your mind is saying you don't have the time. If someone told me earlier, just go make that time. If someone gave me that permission earlier, I probably would have done it sooner. And then during, I think, just the pandemic alone, I had way too much time in the same confines day in and day out, especially since, my son was born in July 2020. So it's just like, wow, like I'm living in the same four walls. And when I had the idea, I wouldn't have let anybody stop me because my brain was like, this is it, you're going. Everything in me it just needed this. It needed this outlet. It needed this authenticity because there's so much of this that allowed me to explore all the parts of myself I wanted to have an outlet for. And I just haven't, or I haven't had it in a very long time. So for me, it felt very obvious, but the insecurity and the fear every step of the way of like, who's going to judge me? Who's going to take advantage? Who's going to, and just like you talking to me through some of it in the beginning and trying to organize it all, it just felt like it was like mistake after mistake after mistake. And nevertheless, it's like, I just want to do this thing. So for anyone who's listening, first and foremost, I always say, is it a fear-based decision or is it a trust-based decision? If you find that deep down in the core of yourself that it's like, this is just so important, don't let the fears get in the way. You just have to, link arms with that fear and walk in through that door and make buddies with it because it's going to be there anyway. But if it feels authentic to you, we just have to do it. The other thing is some of us do have individuals that as we're going along, they tell us, like maybe in some of your experience that you're kind of sharing here too, Elizabeth, that as you were doing things, you then got feedback that, hey, you're actually pretty good at this thing. But how many weeks, how many months, how many years of learning that information until you actually got that feedback? And until that feedback then helped boost some of that confidence. So maybe one day for you, whoever you are as a listener, you don't have anybody at any given point in time that's going to give you any of that confidence, that external, support. You have to do it anyway. So you have to be your own supporter. Again, if someone was just able to kind of communicate that to me, maybe it would have like helped me feel a little bit more relief of, you're going to have nobody, kid. It's the Rodney Dangerfield, like no one's going to give you any respect, right? Even just it doesn't have to be some negative, but I give myself that respect, even if nobody else there to kind of like mirror it off to me. So,
And even the way I handle disappointment when it's my
yeah,
side business is completely different. Do I have disappointment with my side business? Absolutely. Are there times when I've gone for a gig and not gotten it? Yes. But when I don't get it, my sense of disappointment is completely different because when I didn't get it, I know I didn't get it because I put forth my best effort and it just wasn't the right fit. Like I can go to sleep at night and not beat myself up because I'm like, there weren't any external factors at play here. I didn't not get the job because someone else's brother got it or someone else played favorites or someone else on the team didn't carry their weight. It was all me. And I know I used my knowledge, my abilities. I put forth my best effort. And at the end of the day, if that client didn't choose me, it's because it wasn't the right fit. It's not because I wasn't enough. It's because I did my best and it wasn't the right fit. And it's so different. It's still like, while sure, it's momentarily like, oh, bummer. It's completely different than not getting a job that you interviewed for and having someone else tell you, no, you're not enough, than when you're in complete control of the situation. So
Yeah.
even when you're not getting positive feedback, when you're the one in control, I know that that's different for other people. But again, when you're in control of the situation and you know at the end of the day that you did your best because you were completely in charge and behind the wheel, for me, it's just a very different experience. And I still can be really proud of myself because I know that I was the one driving that.
Yeah, yeah. And even with like some of that experience too, one of the early things that I remember going through like the launch box and they're like, who's your client? I'm like, everybody. It's like, oh, that's a no-no. It's like, I now know that I have a deeper understanding of that now. And that how it goes into like, you're looking for your audience and not everyone is going to be your audience. At least at the very beginning, you have to figure out who are the people that you're trying to help the most. And those that are not necessarily buying into it, it's because they're not looking for your services. They're not looking for, it's not necessarily your gifts or your traits or like you as a person. It's, we all have different styles of things, you know, like I'm not going to go to Hot Topic anymore because I'm no longer, 14 years old listening to Avril Lavigne. So those are things that like they change and they ebb and they flow. And I don't take it personally if someone's like, oh, you're not wearing Hot Topic clothes. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm pretty good without them. It's just like, and that's the autonomy and the faith in your own authenticity, and what you provide is good in its own. And you can still be someone who learns and goes, oh, what's something I can learn from that experience?
Absolutely.
And also say like, and I understand wasn't a good fit. We can see those things more clearly when we have self-trust in navigating the situations.
Yeah.
So
I try and remind myself, I'm not for everyone. That's okay. Like, not everyone is for everyone, and that's fine. And for me, right, in being a business owner, at the end of the day, that is a good reminder for me. Like, I'm not the right fit for everyone, and that's okay. And I think it's really funny sometimes, right, when business is weird and money is weird when you go to someone, especially when it's someone you know locally, and they come to you because they know you, and then they come and they ask you for your services, and you have to tell them how much you cost. That's an awkward thing. And so it's a thing you have to get over. That's another weird hurdle. Your worth when it comes to dollars, asking people for money is always a little bit awkward. And it's especially awkward when it's someone that you know and you tell them, this is how much I'm worth, because you are worth it. It's knowledge, it's skills. You deserve to be paid for that time and knowledge. And then if that person decides, I'm not going to pay you for the gig, that can be really awkward, especially if you know that person or you have a relationship with that person. And so I think it's especially important as a professional living in this community who still wants to maintain a relationship with that person and who still wants to have a professional reputation to still, I'm always very open and upfront with people when I submit a proposal. Like, hey, at the end of the day, you have to make the best fit for your business. And if I'm not the right fit for you, like, that's okay. And I respect that. I want to be the person and I believe that I'm the right person for this, that, or the other thing. But if at the end of the day, that's not how you see it, like, you should do what's best for you. This is your business. And I think people find that really reassuring when they understand that it needs to be mutually beneficial. I think it's a healthy perspective for us to have in all aspects of life. It can be really hard to not take it personally, but I find that for me, when I do take it personally, because we all do, that's kind of how I try and remind myself, I'm not for everyone.
well, even just like some of the mental health kind of components to this is that you're never going to, you or anybody, myself included, we can't eliminate those initial kind of impulses or those thought processes or those insecurities that bubble up. They've been there for a very long time. They have been socially like ingrained into our DNA practically for hundreds and hundreds of years. Oh, you need to be acceptable at all times, or don't push the envelope, or people pleasing in general. So being able to practice just like noticing those feelings and those insecurities, especially when we're not having years and years of experience yet, and like setting that standard or like providing a proposal confidently. But if we know that it's okay, we can get there sooner. So I think even just some of our conversation right now, some of the hope I have is that it helps some people just feel like they can get to some of this realization sooner, because it would be great if we had a lot of people that are just getting around together like all the time and being able to have these conversations off the cuff, but they don't happen just like, at a coffee. They don't just happen like you get them maybe once or twice a year at an SBDC event, if you're able to even go.
Yeah.
It's important just to be able to shed light on these. It sounds like a casual conversation, but I think with Elizabeth, your experience, and I know also with my experience, it's how can we take our learning curves and decrease the amount of time other people have to go through those learning curves? Yeah.
And for the record, every single time I hit a proposal, every single time I hit send, I'm nervous.
Hmm. Yeah. 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 It's funny. Like I will try to have like, I try to be very, very authentic with people saying, hey, whatever the case may be, whether it's my work in like private practice, like in any case, it's like, I just want you to do the best for you. And I feel so confident that if you told me no, and I think I over explain that for people sometimes because it's almost like over protecting them because I do truly want them to make the best decision. And I know from, again, working with so many people over so many years, I don't want to, it's like, oh my gosh, please don't do anything for me at all. It's not going to work for you. It's not going to work for me. Being able to have that kind of authenticity also allows other people to feel safe in approaching. It sets up the relationship. If it is a good fit, it sets up that relationship moving forward. And also as professionals too, and this is again, these skills that are transferable across whatever it is that you're doing, being able to have just authentic and open conversations with people, even when they're not yet ready to have them, builds even more connection and a deeper relationship and improved relationship, working relationship, personal relationship, what have you. Taking us into how do these entrepreneurial interests, how is it that you find that this has helped you connect more meaningfully to your life and you just giving yourself more of that self-care in approaching things that are important to you outside of like your roles, jobs, parenting, mother parenting, and, relationship like wife?
Yeah. I had a child a little bit later in life, right? Before I was 40. And so I was one of those people that was always really, right? Like I could do what I wanted, right? For a long time. And I was nervous to have a baby because it was like, I'm going to have to give so much of myself to this person. And I was really nervous to give up all of that independence away. I'm a very independent person. I'm a very strong-willed person. I'm a very driven person. I've always been pretty career oriented. And I was really nervous about that. And so when I started this business shortly before I had a baby, and I think, right, like subconsciously, that was probably one of my like last ditch, like I'm just grasping it, like I will hold on to something. But for me, and my husband and I talked about, like, it was really important to establish something that I was able to maintain and it was just going to be me. And so, right, like I'm in a Peloton group on Facebook, and someone posted recently this notion of like fitness is medicine. And I know Elizabeth Hay just talked a couple weeks ago about fitness and how important it is for performance and mental health. I think exercising your abilities in flexing this intellectual muscle and doing the thing that you're passionate about is mental health. If you're not doing the thing that you're passionate about, if you're not exercising the thing that makes you who you are, like if you're giving up that part of yourself and you're never getting to be who you are, you get lost. We see this with women all the time. It's
All the time.
out of necessity. I get it. It is what it is. Like it's part of it is human nature. I think we all go through it as moms. It took me 2 years. It wasn't until my son was 2 that I finally like felt like the fog was lifted and I could start exercising again and feel like myself. But
Very normal, by the way. Very normal. Yeah.
what a time.
Yeah.
But during that time, the time that I prioritized spending time flexing this muscle and working in my business and taking on client projects was some of the time that I felt like me. And so even when there were some of those moments of conflict with my husband of like, hey, like it's the evening time and it would be great if like we could hang out a little bit, the kid's finally asleep. And of course, it was finding that balance. It couldn't be every single night. Like, that's not healthy either. But that's when we were able to have those honest conversations of here's why this is important to me. And here's why, just like exercise is, just like mental health and going to a therapist is, here's why this side hustle for me is important. It's not about the money, it's about exercising the thing that I am good at, that I love doing, that makes me feel like I don't have mom brain because I'm getting to, be an intellectual who's learning new things, who's applying that thing that I've learned and getting some of that validation as well that I don't necessarily get in some of the other aspects of my professional.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, like so many, parallels. I think some of the benefit of even just enjoying doing this podcast is because I get to see all these parallels like over and over and over again that are fulfilling and they're satisfying for me in my own life. But I'm also hoping that they can be for other people too, especially if people are listening from episode to episode. They'd be like, "Wow, it just keeps happening." It's like I know these things. They like same things are going on over and over again. But just to share a little bit of like some of the science behind, what we experience when we're doing these creative, authentic, and self-actualization endeavors. So many of us may be familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So we have our basic needs and our safety needs. And those are like sleep, hygiene, having a safe place to live, financial security. So like if I'm stressed, is my brain constantly pulling me to, you're not getting enough sleep, you're dehydrated all the time, you're nutritionally unbalanced. Those things are going to stress our bodies out. Those are the most obvious. Then we think about our social needs. So our social needs are connection and attachment to other people, feeling love and belonging with other people, that we feel seen and we can contribute with the people in the world around us, and we feel appreciated with that. And then esteem needs are feeling like we are able to feel respected and that our contributions matter to other people. And that is being, again, kind of like reflected back to us. And you're kind of describing that in the work that you were doing is like, hey, I have my basic needs met. I'm getting my safety needs met. Basic needs may have gone off really downhill when I had a baby for a little while. And that is definitely something that happens. And then in the meantime, I'm finding that I'm satisfying my social connections, where if I'm not, I can be aware of it and like do something to satisfy that. And then at the tippy top, we have self-actualization needs. And that is being able to feel like you are your true authentic self and that you have respect and self-efficacy, that you feel capable of doing things and experiencing life and balancing it all in the ways that feels, again, like true to your own unique nature. And although it's a pyramid, but it's more like a pie chart. It's this ebb and flow of we need to constantly find homeostasis with all of these needs. It's not just about constantly maintaining our connection needs with people in the community. There's many of us that feel like, we can think about groupthink. It's not always the most beneficial thing. It's like, well, I'm always doing what other people want to do. And I feel like I am a black sheep among white sheep. And I'm constantly having to put white clothes on myself over and over again to blend in. That then is denying your autonomy and your self-actualization. And that's going to breed and manifest into emotional health challenges or physical health challenges. So we don't just get to hide those parts of ourselves. They do manifest, and something will come of it that isn't super pleasant, whether it's mentally, emotionally, socially, or physically. Something will happen. So when we have these calls to action of these physical symptoms of like, I need to feel like me, we need to heed that because that is a part of your well-being. That self-actualization isn't just like some mythical perk. It's a part of your human experience and it needs to be listened to.
And I think that there's this like myth that like do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And that's a nice concept. And I'm sure that there are some people out there who are doing the thing that they love and they don't feel like they get to work. But the reality is like not everyone can find a job that is fulfilling to them and meets every single one of those needs. And I also don't think it's realistic for every single job that you have out of necessity or out of circumstance to meet every single one of those needs. And so while there simply aren't enough hours in the day, so I'm not suggesting that a side hustle is easy. I'm not. Like, it is hard and it is extra hours. I also think that it's unrealistic to have everything in one job. No job is perfect. And I think that sometimes, in order to have your needs met in terms of what you find to be fulfilling, at least professionally and sometimes personally, taking on something a little bit extra for yourself, um, entrepreneurship or a side hustle is one great way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. You've created a hobby of something that brought a lot of joy for you. You created that into a business. And I know for me, it was like, well, how do I do all these things that I want to do? And the realization was you have to turn it into a business in some ways, or it's not really going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And not, at least not in the ways that I wanted to affect more people. So being able to kind of like check into that, anything that we're having a conversation about when it comes to like building a business, you don't have to. It may just be spending that time and energy doing more of the hobbies that you're really interested in and just engaging more with that. It doesn't have to be a business.
Yes, 100%. This is something, it's funny in my world. Sometimes there's this like push of like, you have to turn it into business and you have to scale and you have to make this big and you should be selling that. Maybe you shouldn't. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes I see that hustle mentality make the thing that you love turn into a grind in a way that kills that passion. And I don't believe that everyone should move at that same speed. I was on a panel last year and it was so funny because I was literally with this girl who was on Shark Tank. She's beautiful. She was in like the military and she started this active wear bodysuit, and then someone from this big tech company, and it was me. And I'm speaking of, right, like imposter syndrome. But they were asking, right, advice that you would give your younger self, your college self. And one guy was like, start sooner. And I forget what she said. And my advice was run your own race. Yes, that is a Bluey reference. But I believe that you should work at your own speed. And just because someone else is monetizing their hobby, and just because someone else is quitting their job to do what they do on the side, doesn't mean that that's for everyone. Do the thing that you love in the way that is fulfilling to you at the pace that you want to do it. Just because it works for someone else doesn't mean that you have to do it. So don't listen to your friends, don't listen to your family, listen to yourself. When you were talking about earlier, like, how do you make that decision? Go sit with it in silence. I know moms, we can't like take a day off to go on like a retreat, but like, if you can find some time to sit with yourself and journal and reflect and really just think on like, what are the pros and cons and what's in it for me? And then how do you make that work? Like, what does that look like? If you could envision a perfect world, what would the perfect world look like? And then how could you turn that perfect world into an actual world? It doesn't have to be what everyone else's looks like.
Yeah, and it's a living document. Maybe in that moment, you're saying, well, this is something that just works for me right now. Then write down what the pros and cons are of just spending more time doing the thing that you're interested in the short term. And then write the possibility of what those long-term things could look like if it was just a hobby or if it was just a business, or a combination. The more that we have that self-trust and that inner awareness and that peace to just feel confident in whatever choices we're making in that moment, if they are our choices, they are generally going to be the right choices. The more that we can kind of just be in line with, again, those truth-based or trust-based decisions over fear-based decisions, including like someone else is saying, go and do the thing. It's like, well, if my body's saying that actually feels really wrong to me and I feel now forced to do something that my brain goes, I don't want to do that. Listen to that and then write it out. Is that a fear-based decision or is it a trust-based decision? If you write those pros and cons out, you'll be able to see it more quickly and get out of the fog of like sometimes our own pressures. So all those things that even with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, those are our fears. If you have a fear that comes up of, I won't have financial security. Hey, that might be pretty legitimate. Look at that. And then figure out whether or not those pros and cons, some of the risks outweigh the reward or vice versa. And we can do that with like, well, people will reject me. Well, what's the reality of that? Or who's going to reject you? Write that out. What are the risks? What are the rewards of doing A, B, and C? Anything that is a need is also a fear. And oftentimes, if we're having a physical or emotional reaction that doesn't feel super pleasant, it can be traced back to an autonomy or self-actualization fear or need, connection, and also like our basic and safety needs. Pros and cons is a great way, and just writing it out and connecting to your values. Sometimes when I say that, yeah, it's like, well, Kelly, you're a therapist. What do values even mean? Or it's like, go into your deep belief systems. It's like, okay, but like, what's important to you? What's important to you in your personal life? What's important to you when it comes to family and relationships? What's important to you when it comes to financial security? Again, you can use those need systems of Maslow's hierarchy to say, these are needs and these are things that I want. And these are things that I may not care as much about. Maybe I'm okay, like making a certain amount of money and not making $500,000 a year because I want to do this thing. That's your trust. That's your inner compass. Nobody else is sailing across the ocean at the same speed and in the same directions. Where you want to be in your boat and where do you want to go?
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring up values. When I talk to clients about building their brand, be it their personal brand or their business brand, I ask them to think about a couple things: their values, their core values as a company, their unique value proposition, the thing that makes their business unique, different than any other brand out there. And I ask them to think about their passion. Their passion is the thing that they love doing, that if they had to stop doing it, they would be really devastated. Their passion is oftentimes the thing that isn't work for them. So even if they had to do it, right, they were forced to do it, it's not work for them, or it's normally challenging to other people, but it's a challenge that they like to overcome. So if anyone out there is thinking about like, what is the thing that I'm most passionate about that maybe I'm missing in my life? That might be the way that you could think about like, what is the thing that's missing in my life? It could be the thing that you maybe had to do at one point that was really challenging to you, but you loved that challenge. You didn't mind doing it. That might be the thing that is the thing that you're seeking that you miss doing.
Yeah, yeah. And just giving yourself some space to decide, is it this week that I just spent an hour doing that thing? So again, figure out what that passion is, and then everything else can come from there. But if you can't see it, it's hard to strategize something that you feel, but you're not able to label. So see if you can label it, see if you can write it down. And I know the SBDC too has a lot of fantastic free resources and even just like breaking those things up. And they're just a conversation away and a free consultation away. So those are really, really wonderful things to check into. And I'll make one more SBDC plug before we wrap up too today. But just finally, like before we get into our fundamentals, do you have, like, from your experience, you've worked with so many different entrepreneurs, but when we're talking about like female entrepreneurs and women entrepreneurs and all the different roles that women carry in their lives, what is it that you find time and again tend to be the benefits of going through those initial hurdles and the fears that people have coming into having these conversations? What do you often see?
To be an entrepreneur, there are a couple of skills that you need to have. But all of these skills are learnable skills. They're nothing that you have to be like inherently born with that you can't learn. You have to be a risk taker. You have to be resilient. You have to be willing to solve problems. You have to be willing to wear a lot of hats. And you have to be willing to learn new things. Right. Again, there are different things. You have to also be self-aware and know what your strengths are and be willing to reach out to other people for help. That's a big one too. But of those things, the resilience piece is huge. And so I think that having to go through something really challenging and sometimes failure, not like entrepreneurship is full of failure. You're going to fail. There's things that you're going to mess up and there's going to be setbacks. That's part of the ride. It happens to everyone. So the ability to get through it and survive it and experience like I can come out on the other side and be okay and bounce back. For me, that's the outcome. That's the thing that you come through and you realize I am enough. I can get through it. I can do this on my own. and I can hack it still. I can be the one who wears all the hats. I can take the risks. I can do the hard thing, and I can still be successful on the back end.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, these are skills, and skills are something we're capable of learning. Would you say also that women who are going through some of these programs, especially if they have the support, sometimes it only just takes one helpful support system, and it may or may not be even like your spouse. If it is, fantastic.
It
Makes
can
it a
be
lot more
me.
difficult
Somebody
when
at
it's not.
CDC. I'll be
Exactly. Right. So if you just have one support, one person who's saying, I can't do all this for you, and I can help be there with you non-judgmentally each step of the way, being able to learn that often many, especially women, if you're a mother, you have these traits already. You have these skills. Absolutely. They're transferable. You may just need a little bit of practice and being able to apply them in ways that you just don't feel as confident. But competence builds confidence. You're very competent probably in a lot of different ways already. Now, how do you build that confidence? By approaching, whether again it's a hobby or this entrepreneurial journey or the exploration of it, and just seeing how you can adapt those skills. So what do you find are some of the biggest obstacles that women are finding when it comes to like getting to explore how, again, these entrepreneurial journeys can help them feel like themselves again?
I mean, I think we talked about imposter syndrome, right? Just not believing in yourself. There's, at the end of the day, there are not enough hours in the day. And I think mom guilt, just the fact of the matter is, in order to prioritize yourself, it does mean taking time away from somewhere else, right? And if time is coming away from someone else, then it's like, shoot, am I taking time away from my kid? Am I taking time away from my spouse? And it's the willingness to say, like, am I as important as that other person? And if you're constantly putting the pressure on yourself, like me prioritizing me means me not being enough for someone else, and putting that pressure, that guilt on yourself of not being enough for everyone else, I think that continues to be the biggest hurdle. We all have it. We're always worried that we're not doing the right thing by our kids, not feeding them the right things, not doing enough activities, not spending them enough time with them, not disciplining them the right way. So I think so long as we can remind ourselves that in order to be the best parent for them, we have to take care of ourselves. The metaphor I use in my leadership group all the time, they're tired of me saying it, I'm sure, is the airplane mask metaphor, that in order to take care of each other, we have to put on our mask first. And so I think that while it's not easy to do, we're going to have that mom guilt. I think that that's a thing that we'll have so long as these little people are in our lives. While they're going to be our little people, they will be big people someday, but they will be still our little people in our minds. I think we will always have it, but I think we just have to remember that to be the best for them, we have to take care of ourselves too. And that means finding the time in the very few hours in a day that exist to make ourselves a priority. Sometimes doesn't mean it's going to be
Absolutely.
every day, may not even be every week, but finding a time to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as someone, I think I've been doing this since 2022, scrapping by these hours every single week. Man, I love it so much. I have to say, like everything I'm doing, I become more and more passionate, more and more interested every single day. And I have had weeks of, I thought I knew what burnout was, but now I really know what burnout is. Um, because even some of that is just like chasing something so much, not because like I feel dread and that I have to do it, but because I'm exhausting myself because I love it so much. And the mom guilt of all that, the navigating the guilt of providing enough. These are like social constructs that have been around for thousands upon thousands of years. They may have even been around when mammals had been just like, existence 200 million years ago. But in any case, it's that sense of being taught that your life is partially self-sacrifice, and it's not. These are social constructs. These are belief systems that are often really, really unhealthy. We understand that they come from a survival mechanism. Like your child cannot survive as a mammal if you're not like right there on top of them all the time. In the 21st century, yeah, and actually,
Probably be okay.
they'll be a lot better. They may even be a lot better because we're modeling to them women's worth.
Yes.
We're modeling to them that my mom has worth beyond just making sure the house is cleaned, or she's paying the bills, or she's this individual that just does all this running. And for me, all the time, it's like, do you want them to have relationships with other women, or do you want to see those other women as autonomous individuals that also deserve to have self-actualization? So maybe some of us do have to actually ask ourselves those questions and like kind of contemplate what that actually means and what that means to your own belief systems. But when we demonstrate that our work ethic and we demonstrate our interests and our hobbies, we we're doing the world a better service. We're doing future generations of women a service to change some of these cultural and social patterns. We're also helping our children go after their dreams so they don't self-sacrifice. It doesn't matter what their gender identity is. No one should have to sacrifice parts of themselves, because actually we all do better when we can just trust ourselves to navigate all these different needs, and that we're competent. We don't need fear or insecurity driving those decisions. We can just be like, I actually am capable of knowing the difference between selfishness and self-care. I can tell the difference. And maybe I fear someone else's judgment that, oh, I can't believe she's doing so and so. Allow them to, because it's not about them, it's about you. And if you focus on just trusting yourself and navigating those things, and you behave and you communicate from a sense of self-trust, that will be modeled then to our children. It'll be modeled to society. And again, I do believe the world could be a better place.
And I will tell you, not only do I have a husband who supports me in doing it, I have a husband who brags about me to my kid, who tells my 3-year-old, look what mommy's doing. And so if there are moms out there who are saying like, oh, I don't want to worry about like the pressure of those other moms judging me, I would encourage them to think about, what if your husband was bragging about you? Like, what's the trade-off there? The reward. You know what I mean? Like, again, like you said, we could be raising a generation of kids and a generation of men who are recognizing that in other people. And like, isn't that worth the trade-off of the fear of the judgment and the mom guilt? So I love that you said that. Thank you so much for saying it. It's awesome.
Absolutely. And I will say one more thing too, when it comes to like, I have been aware, and even though I think about these things and I practice these things all the time, it's so interesting how like I feel compelled sometimes to say these things of, well, but mommy has to do this thing. And I say it almost in a way that, or I feel compelled to say it in a way that makes me look bad. Like as if I'm doing something wrong. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I have to do this thing, apologizing or explaining for things in the way that's like using words. So it's important that if I am doing a behavior, that we're modeling in our words as much as we can. And it feels even scary to do that sometimes. It's almost like we have to seek permission, trying to silence that permission seeking, because it's just another form of people pleasing. So
the guilt is
we do that even to our children. Yeah. Yeah. So it's okay that if you find that you're struggling to do that, and at the same time, and again, like I'm a parent coach, I do all the things, and I've been doing it for years.
Please, ingrained in us. We can't help
Exactly. You know,
I know we're running at time, but I have to tell you. So when I had this idea for what I wanted to talk about, I was like, I told my therapist, I was like, I need you to process through this with me. Like, process through this concept with me. And like, why do I seek out entrepreneurship, right? Like, why is it rewarding to me? And at the end of the conversation, she was like, okay, do me a favor, like sum up what we just talked about. And I said to her, I said, so I'm still seeking A's on my report card because they don't hand those out in adult life. And she was like, and like I sat with that, because I think as adults, like we as millennials are people pleasers, and we want to know that like we are doing well, and we want to know that we're learning, and we want to know that like we're succeeding. And like in our world, we're so busy and the world is on fire and everything's going on that we don't know, and we don't hear that ever. And so I will say, moms, I'm not saying that's healthy. It's balance. We have to find, it can't be like so addictive that we're seeking the validation. That's not okay either. It's for me, I have to find that balance. But it is okay to want to know that like you're doing well. And I think if it's actualization and seeing the reward, your end results, because you can do the thing. That's not good. But I thought you would appreciate that.
Yes.
I was like,
yes.
Oh,
And if you can't do therapy, just write out what your fears are and reflect on them. And then it's like, what if it was different? What if I could? Then do it. So do opposite action. I feel this emotion is not helpful for me. What's the opposite of feeling guilty? I feel pride in what I'm doing. Okay, behave on that pride. Behave on that pride. If the guilt's not helping you, behave on the pride and fake it till you make it. That's okay too.
Love it.
So what are your fundamentals, Elizabeth?
Pausing the episode for just a moment, if today's conversation is resonating with you, you can go deeper inside the Fundamentals Life, Relationships, and Career Accelerator, my start to finish, science-backed course on the essential skills of human flourishing. The course is self-paced, structured, practical, and designed to help you build a strong foundation so you can truly thrive across life, relationships, and work. You can join completely free for 14 days, watch, listen, and learn in whatever ways work best for you and your life. No commitment, cancel anytime. Head to KnowYourFundamentals.com or check the link in the show notes. All right, let's get back to the episode.
So after I reflected on my therapy session and my seeking A's, I was like, okay, so what is entrepreneurship? If it is this thing that can potentially be addictive. And for me, it's like this metaphor. This hustle is like helium. It can be like a balloon that inflates you. It can be really fulfilling. It can lift you up. But at the same time, if you allow it, it can stretch you out and be really deflating in the end. So the hustle is like helium. Allow it to lift you up, but be careful, find the balance, and don't let it deflate you.
Yeah, the balance. Self-awareness can help us find that balance so we're not overextending, right? Or over-limiting. Everything comes down to balance. And you'll also hear that over and over again if you listen to these other episodes. But anything else that you'd like to share today, Elizabeth? Because I know that was your quote, but do you have anything else that you'd like to kind of just sprinkle as for the audience? I think we covered
a lot of ground today.
Yeah.
Just I want moms to know, clearly we all are feeling this way. If you're interested, if you are in entrepreneurship, seek out an SBDC or a free resource. That's awesome. If you're interested, if you have a hobby, you don't have to monetize it. Don't let anyone tell you you should be making money out of this. You don't have to. But at the same time, if you are interested in it and it seems really scary to you, that's also really normal. But it could be really rewarding to you if you're able to get past that hurdle. So you have options.
Yeah. Absolutely. And there's often a lot of free resources, even classes and things without formally connecting with someone at an SBDC. And at the same time, because it's a free, confidential, and also a complimentary service, there's no harm in just having a conversation. So even if it's just an exposure for you to say, oh, I don't know, let me just see, then just go ahead and see what happens. And
you never have to come back and talk to me ever again. And I can't tell anyone that you talked to me.
Yeah. No harm, no foul. So thank you so much for being with us today, Elizabeth.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you.
Get more life, relationships, and career fundamentals when you follow @KnowYourFundamentals on social media. And check out KnowYourFundamentals.com for the podcast, blog, fundamentals course, coaching, and to connect with me. Remember, you're the expert on you. Seize the day and thrive your way.